Before we get into the discussion, let's watch this video.
As we have just desilted this drain, I bet you tomorrow when you come, you will see refuse in the drain. People just do whatever they want.
Accra is drowning in garbage. And yes, lawless citizens have a lot to do with it. But the problem is bigger than that. By law, waste management is the responsibility of the local government. In this case, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, AMA. In 2010, the AMA entered into a contract with 9 waste management companies to manage waste collection on its behalf. But the system isn't working, and for a number of reasons. Firstly, Accra generates 2,500 tons of garbage daily, which needs to be disposed of. Until recently, the city had 3 landfill disposal sites. Today, it has none.
Formerly, we were dumping at Achimota, we were dumping at Saba, we were dumping at Abokobi. So we had 3 dump sites to dump refuse. But all those dump sites are full to capacity, and they are now, the government or the AMA has decided to shut it down. So all the 9 waste management contractors, including Zoom Lion, when we haul the refuse, we send it to the final disposal site at Code.
Tema, beyond Tema?
Yes, beyond Tema.
So you mean this thing, they're going to carry it all the way
to Tema? The point is that the distance between the final disposal site and the point of collection is very far apart. So the trucks are unable to lift the refuse regularly or timelessly.
How this situation wasn't anticipated and new landfill sites not planned for is difficult to understand. The return trip to the Pong landfill site outside Tema is 90 kilometers, and disposing of just 1 load of garbage can take anything up to 6 hours, depending on the traffic on the Tema motorway and the queues at the dump site. So it's no surprise that garbage is piling up in the city. The situation is also putting the Pong landfill site under immense pressure. Engineered landfill sites are expensive to build and expensive to run, and they occupy ever-dwindling land around cities. It's important that waste is properly managed to ensure that as little as possible of it ends up in the landfill. Given the mountains of garbage we generate daily, the question is how? The answer is actually simple: recycling. The Accra Compost and Recycling Plant processes almost half of the city's waste, reducing its bulk by up to 70%.
All right, so very disturbing images and even more disturbing words coming from David Ampofo, the Executive Director of Channel 2 Communications. They put that report together. And here at TV3, we've also brought a number of reports to you regarding waste and filth management in the country. Let me introduce my guest and get the interview underway. We have Michael Paddy Tuwo. He is the Business Development Manager at the Accra Compost and Recycling Plant. And he also watched that documentary and was equally surprised as I was. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
How dire is the situation of filth and waste, especially in Accra? We don't want to concentrate on the entire country for now, but just in Accra, how bad is the situation?
Well, it's as bad as you saw on the documentary, the short documentary that you just aired. And like you said in the introduction, it's an issue of we not properly managing the waste, because waste is generated everywhere. Once human activity goes on, you're bound to generate waste. But as to how we manage it to reduce the volumes so that its impact on the environment is minimized. Yes.
What are the very first steps? We'll come to the major one that has to do with the plant and the processing. But what are the very first steps of managing the waste, you and I as individuals? What do we do or need to do?
Well, I think the most important thing is to getting to know that the waste is not garbage, as we put it. That once the waste is generated, all that we can do is just send it to a landfill or a final disposal site. No. But if we understand that waste is a resource that we can recycle to reduce the volumes and reuse, by reusing, then at least we've made a headway. That's the starting point. But if we will leave with this kind of perception that once the waste leaves my premises, then it's never my problem, then we're bound to face problems like this.
Okay. Now, in putting Accra into perspective, what are the challenges in managing the waste? You are, as an institution, which is the Accra Compost and Recycling Plant, what do you do and what are the challenges you faced in doing your duty?
Yes, Accra Compost and Recycling Plant, our mandate is to receive the waste that otherwise would have been on the landfill. We are to receive it, separate them, and then identify the ones that we can recycle, and then bring them back into the system to reduce the volumes that finally will be going to the landfill. So we are not directly involved in the collection. We are not involved in the transportation. Okay? We are on the chain, at that side of the chain where instead of the waste going to public landfill, it comes to us. We have a facility that will do the sorting for us, either manually or mechanically. We try to retrieve currently close to 75% of the material and into various components like the organic material. Then you decompose it naturally. The only additive there is water over a period, and it becomes a useful agricultural material for anything, agriculture, even to amenities market, like our lawns and our grass at home, our flowering, the recyclables like the plastics, the paper, the metal scraps that we recover are also sent, either we add value to them, then I send them to the respective industries. Those that we don't have markets here, we look elsewhere and then we export them to.
In Ghana or in Accra for that matter, we generate all kinds of waste, all kinds of waste, and it's a mixed bag of very filthy stuff. Which kind of waste do you or are you able to work with?
Yes, we are dealing with the municipal solid waste, what we normally call the MSW. I'll call it municipal waste. Under municipal waste, you have municipal solid waste and municipal liquid waste. But we are currently dealing with the solid waste. Okay, and
what does that consist of?
The household solid waste that we generate, including the market waste and yard trimmings from our homes and then our gardens, right? But then liquid waste is also another area, the phase 2 of our planning process. Very soon, next year around the same time, we'll be handling liquid waste also at our place. But like you said, that one of the challenges is the waste coming to us unseparated or not segregated. You know, chunk of our operations and then our expenditure is on the separation line. You need energy, you need fuel, you need the labor
to do the sorting.
The sorting, and which is quite expensive in our settings. But then, if this were to be handled at the source, where we do source separation, then probably we could have a number of composting plants where all the organic materials will just move straight into the composting plant. They decompose it and they bring it back to the system for agriculture and for our households.
We are told that government has signed a contract with 9 waste management companies. Would you describe yourself as a waste management company? And if so, how different are you from those that do the collection?
We are one of the companies within the industry. It's a chain, like I said. From the source, the material has to be transported. And then there's even another intermediary, what we call the, what do you call it? Transfer stations. There's one, I think the Teshin former compost plant has been turned into a transfer station where the materials are collected from the source in smaller trucks and sent there, and then we use much bigger trucks to reduce the traffic. and then the number of collection times. So, and then from there it goes to either the composting plant or the recycling plant, or before going to the landfill. But the difficulty we are having as a country is that we are seeing landfilling, okay, as the only immediate waste disposal means now, so that all the waste that we generate, we only look for a site.
Just dump it there.
Yes, we just dump it there, and it comes with its own challenges as well. But then, like we kept saying, composting is just one of the three major solid waste disposal mechanisms or tools that we use. We have composting, we have landfilling, and then the incineration. But we are going composting because quite a chunk of our waste that we generate daily, out of that 2,500 that you had in the documentary, you realize that close to 40 to 60% is organic material. And this is all that you need to decompose. And then comes a rich soil enhancement material. These days, everybody is very particular about the health. And we are trying to do away with a lot of chemicals. The natural thing to use is the compost. If you use compost for your vegetable, for instance, tomato, for instance, the fruit, the harvest, is able to stay on. You don't need to refrigerate it. It's able to stay for more than 5 weeks without going bad. So why wouldn't we rather encourage this, so that our farmers accept this concept? The more they buy into the use of compost, the more we clean our environment. Yeah.
There seemed to be the other major problem we have is the fact that the city seems to have been engulfed in the filth, and we are clearly running out of landfill sites. Where do you think we can go from here? I mean, you are at one end of the entire chain, and your probable focus is there, but in how many years do you think that we are very likely to lose our means of livelihood if we continue at the rate at which we are going?
One, I would say, yes, like you rightly said. Even the landfilling system is becoming more challenging now. Issue of space, urbanization is catching up so fast with our cities. Even spaces to even dump the waste is a problem. You remember what happened quite not too long ago at Achimota. People rejecting siting of landfills in their area or their vicinities, and it's becoming more of a challenge, and that's why most of the waste will now have to travel all the way to Pome. The way to go is to increase the number of sorting plants. We should also start with the practice of source separation. We should also increase the logistics, because currently there's that kind of partial segregation going on in various homes. Okay. You find people putting plastics in one area and then other materials. But the challenge is the truck comes, let's say, once a week. And when it comes, it puts everything again together and then send it to the landfill or bring it to us. So if the rate of collection can increase, then people may also be finding it more convenient to separate. And then again, if education, like we are doing now, people will get to understand and appreciate that waste is not garbage, but it's a resource. And we start having buying centers, which of course there are buying centers around these landfill areas. Even the drivers that convey these materials from our homes, before they get to the landfill or to our place, they've already picked out the valuable materials and they sell for cash.
So there's even business in the
absolutely collection. I told you that when we're watching that, like you see in there, that's a lot of money. What you see there is millions or thousands, not in thousands.
What do you need to run at full capacity and efficiently, and would you call for a lot more of such plants that will do the sorting and then the decomposition of the ones that can be reused?
Of course, it's capital intensive when you go in. The kind of commercial composting that we're doing. But then if we can also reduce it to the district level, where you're using much simpler technologies, okay, it becomes more practical and more feasible at that level. Again, if capital, if we can have access to a little more cheaper capital, source of capital, the expansion, we can expand. As we speak now, we currently also putting up another facility in Kumasi, which we believe in that by close of next year or early 2017, it should be operational. And then we also looking at moving into other regions, but it all comes up to the cost of funding. Yeah.
And the other side of this argument, which really is of concern to me, is the fact that the rains are here again. We still seem to have quite a sizable amount of garbage on the streets, in our gutters and around. How can we help in the collection? Do you think that there is something we can do as individuals to collect and do the separation before it goes through the process of arriving at your premises?
Yes. Again, like I said, when you say what can we do, you mean the whole system. Yes. If we get to know that the waste must not be just be thrown away about, but then we just put it in a container, dispose it at a point where the transportations or the transport systems will also pick it and then move it. But then when you think the ice water sachet is nothing, and then you just throw it out from your car, or you just, after taking it, you just drop it.
Like that.
The rain comes and then it will wash it into the drain, like you're saying, eventually getting to a point where it cannot flow, choking it, and the drains will overflow, and then we are bound to experience what we went through June 3rd. Because these things are not, they are solid materials. And once it passes up and then it goes through a narrow channel, it blocks it.
Okay.
You understand me? And then the water cannot flow. Look at the beaches, what is happening there. Yeah.
What is your take on the fact that those people who generate waste at home can burn it? Because I know of some people who the house collectively has a point where they gather their waste and then they light it up later in the evening to burn it. What is your take on it? Is that also one way that we can reduce? No.
Can you imagine if everybody tend to or decide to burn in the waste, and then most of these plastics are quite toxic, you understand me? And you'll be polluting, and then the whole system will be something else. That is incineration, but incineration is done in a confined and quite controlled environment. You understand? So that practice, we should not encourage that. The point is, what you are burning, if you get to know that I can make money from this, there's no way you burn it. I don't think you put your CD notes together and then just burn them. No. Because it's money. Yeah,
but at this rate that we do not have the 100% guaranteed means of getting the waste out of our area to the necessary drop-off points, in the interim, people want to do something. At least someone like me would want to gather the waste and get it out as quickly as possible, because there is a fear of it falling, animals scattering it. When it rains, it goes back into the system. That is the fear. And within that period, what can we do? That is my fear. That is a concern I'm raising.
Oh, okay. And I think that falls under
the collection.
The collection and then the transportation system.
Okay.
But then they have their own programs that they are able to do. But then what I'm suggesting is that we need to let people know.
Okay.
Right? Because the waste that you have generated, if there's a source where you can send and make money, the volumes that will be left can be managed until such time that the truck comes to pick them.
Okay.
Yes.
And in conclusion, what do you make of the plastic weights that you work on? What's the aftermath of those ones?
Yes, plastic constitutes quite a percentage of the waste stream that comes. And the plastics comes in different forms, like the LDPs, the HDPs, the PPs, and then the PET. The PET is normally the water bottles.
Okay.
All the plastics, with the exception of the PET bottles, we wash, we crush them, and then we pelletize. You understand me? Okay. You run it through a system where it melts it and extrudes it and passes through water. It hardens, and then you
break it
into pieces like beads.
Okay.
And that becomes the raw material for the reuse. So those are the raw material that we make available to the respective companies.
So companies that manufacture
buckets, plastic buckets, plastic bowls, and chairs, and all kind of stuff. They use those ones, and it's in high demand. It's in high demand. Else they would have been resorting to the use of virgin material, which they'll have to import, and it's quite expensive. But it also has a correlation with the world market fuel prices.
Okay.
Once the prices are dropping, then the virgin material is becoming quite cheaper.
Okay.
But that they mix it, they use, and the demand is very high. It's only the PET bottles that we don't have the technology here. They apparently using it for the manufacture of carpets, and woolen carpets, and then teddy bears, that kind of synthetic fiber. And then so we export those ones out of the country to the
those
target markets.
Properly managed.
Absolutely. The metal scraps are also sent to the steel companies.
So how do you process the scraps when they come in?
Well, I must say the scraps, the kind of scraps we receive there, or we finally get as the residual scraps. Okay. The scavengers and then the drivers, they pick the real ferrous materials out, and we handle the cans. We normally crush them to reduce the volumes, to make them much more denser for easy transportation. So we don't just do anything to them. We just send them straight, because they are going to heat it and melt them.
Oh, okay. All right. We've been speaking with Michael Paddy-Tuor, and in conclusion, would want you to give us your final words and what we have to do to support this call of keeping our cities clean. I know for sure that we cannot have 100% clean house or city, but at least we can make significant progress in ensuring that we keep our areas and homes clean. From today, I am promising that waste I generate at home, I'll separate the plastics from the other ones. That is a step in the right direction. What else do you have to add to this campaign?
Well, I will still insist on we having to be sensitizing the public that waste is a resource. Waste, if I get to the landfill or I pass by a dump site and I stop and I look at the amount of money sitting there, and it's because we don't know. But I don't know, I'm not that old, but then I knew in some recent years you'll be passing by and a whole lot of metal scraps all over the place. But today, if you are not careful and you leave your rickety car by the roadside, by the time you come, it's gone, because there's value for it now.
Someone has seen the value in that.
Today there's high demand for scrap metal. That is how it's done. Paper, ordinary paper that we throw away, there's high demand for it. Cardboard, there's high demand for it. Plastics, very high demand for it. In other jurisdictions, we're using plastics now. Formerly, they were using only the PET for diesel oil through pyrolysis. Now it's moved into all forms of plastics.
Wow.
So you can imagine if we are even to convert all these plastics that we generate into diesel oil.
Okay. All right. I think we'll have to leave it here for now. Thank you very much for joining us for this discussion. We've been speaking with Michael Paddy-Tuor. He's the Business Development Manager at the Accra Compost and Recycling Plant. And he's been helping us understand the need to separate our waste, and also to see that waste is a resource and not just filth that you should throw away.